Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. We release new episodes every Monday, and we encourage you to go back through our catalog of previous episodes. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and also to like and subscribe to this podcast. We start every episode with a saying of the day, something I look forward to every week. What do you have for us this week?
You're not rich until your banker thinks you're rich. A lot of people get making a little money, everything. Hey, when you go get a loan, if the banker thinks you're rich, he's going to loan you a bunch of money, loan you whatever you need. But he's going to look at it very conservative, and will this person be able to pay back everything we're loaning them? So that, I always tell people, if you get to think you're rich, remember, you're not rich until the banker thinks you're rich.
Did that banker think you were rich when he loaned you the money for those goats when you were a kid?
For lambs.
A lamb.
Lamb.
That's what it was.
Is a lamb. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I just knew he loaned me some money, and he had talked to my dad, and I'm sure my dad co-signed it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they wouldn't let a 12-year-old. And Bob McLean was the banker, and I paid him on Monday, and the loan was due on Friday, and boy, he chewed me out and got all over me and scared me to death. He said he didn't sleep all weekend. And my mother was so mad about it. He slept fine. He wasn't worried about that $60 loan. And but he told me there's only one bank in town. If we go under, people won't have jobs. It'll break everybody. And you got to always call your banker ahead of time if you're going to be a day or two late. Mm-hmm. And it was a good advice. And I've always done that in the past. If I got a problem on a loan or something, I want to make sure the banker knows and he's okay about it. But that's pretty funny that they put me through that, and I mean, it got my attention.
Mm-hmm. Lesson learned.
Absolutely.
Over the weekend was the anniversary of the bombing at Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, the day that will live in infamy.
It was Roosevelt's statement. You look back at that. Japan had 6 aircraft carriers that pulled that off. And, we only have 7 now in the United States. But they had a lot of aircraft carriers. They were aggressive, and they had taken a large part of eastern China. They had been successful in taking a lot of the Philippine Islands over. And the U.S. was negotiating with them, trying to get things worked out and trying to slow them down. But a tyrant or a group of tyrants, you can't slow them down. The only thing they understand is when there's complete defeat. And the Japanese, the tyrants that started the war, they didn't completely understand that. It took 2 atomic bombs to get their attention. They finally thought, this is getting old, and they surrendered. Otherwise, we would have had to invade, and it would have lost hundreds of thousands of people. And Japanese, they had 353 planes, and most of them were fighters and dive bombers, and they came in 2 ways, and they lost less than 10%. They only lost 29 planes, and it was complete surprise. They didn't hit our oil storage, and they thought they'd completely wiped the Navy out, but we had 3 aircraft carriers that had left a few days before to do exercises out in the Pacific. And so we were lucky in that regard because we still had our carriers. And the ship building and repair facility was not bombed. And that allowed us to, we had, there were 8 battleships. All were damaged. 4 of them were sunk in the Arizona permanently. And the reason Arizona is permanently sunk is that every time they tried to raise it, there'd been an explosion to kill some more people. Mm-hmm. They finally just said that's a tomb of for those soldiers. I've been there, and you look at the cemetery in Pearl Harbor, and you see those white crosses forever. I mean, it's huge. Mm-hmm. And the number of people that died, 2,400. We didn't have anything like that in our history, and didn't have anything again until over 3,000 were killed in 9/11. They also had over 1,000 that were wounded, and the Japanese only had 130 people that were killed in the combat and the bombings, and they lost several people in that they floated in midget submarines. It'd carry one or two people to do some damage, and they did do some damage, but also a bunch of them got sunk. And I'm amazed that as many people rallied to the guns and everything that early on a Sunday morning. And they were smart about it. The Japanese felt like the Americans always partied on Saturday night, and their most vulnerable time would be early Sunday morning. And it was around 7 o'clock, between 7 and 8. You talk to people that were alive and when it happened. I had on my leadership program at Texas Tech, I interviewed Governor Perry's mother, and lovely lady, and she told me she was seated on the top bunk bed in her room when her dad came in and said, "Our lives are changed forever by what happened today." And she said, he was right. You look at the aftermath that we had to build up so big, so fast, that when Eisenhower left office, he warned about the military complex, having to have more money and more money. And they have, because if we don't play an important role in world security, then we're going to lose the safety of freedom and liberty. And we have to do that. But he was warning about that there will be a lot of businesses that get in the industrial military operations that will just almost convince everyone they've got to have their product, whatever it is. And they work on that on a regular basis, and some are right. And it's a decision Congress has to make on a yearly basis on what they're going to fund and what they're not going to fund. A big issue.
Isn't it interesting that Japan is now a friend?
A friend, and a good friend. We completely won that war. See, I think if you get a stalemate and you say, well, y'all keep half and we'll keep half, like in Korea, the North Koreans, they're completely without any liberty or any freedom whatsoever. I always tell people, if you think capitalism is not good, or if you think that socialism and communism is good, get a map at night of the Korean Peninsula, and the South Korea is lit up like Vegas. There's a light everywhere. And you get the north, and at the capital there's a few lights. But they don't have any freedom, and it's just it's obvious as you look at just the lights that they fail to have in their country.
We started this episode with your saying of the day, which was about people with money. You said that you're not rich until your banker says you're rich, and I know you've got some more information about wealthy people.
Millionaires. A new study, Northwestern Mutual did a study on millionaires. There's 24 million millionaires in the United States, and they say they classify those that are worth $5 million or below as ordinary millionaires.
Everyday millionaires.
And they are people that their house, and houses have appreciated so much, but their house and what little property they've gotten and in stocks they've put up, and they're pretty fast a millionaire. But 36% of the people that are millionaires don't consider themselves wealthy, and I think that's probably very accurate. Is that if you work for $1 million, it doesn't mean you're wealthy. When I was little and growing up, a millionaire was just unheard of. Somebody's a millionaire, people couldn't believe it, that they were worth $1 million. And that and there weren't a lot of them out in West Texas, especially in Dimmitt. We didn't know anybody. Well, there was a guy over at Hereford everybody thought was a millionaire, and they'd talk about him, in terms of envy. They wished, too, that they were a millionaire. They also considered, when do you become an adult? At 18? And that's when you're eligible to go fight for your country. But becoming an adult, you got to be 32 years of age before your brain really develops, is what their study says. Childhood is 0 to 9, and then adolescence 9 to 32. and I've seen a lot of those that are in their early 30s and late 20s that are still adolescents. But I don't know that I completely believe that one. And adulthood is 32 to 66. In aging, early aging is 66 to 83. In late aging is 83 and above. So, I get to look at it. Well, I get into the late aging category. We'll see what that's all about. There is a guy got in trouble. He's an influencer. Influencers. Somebody told me, I was talking to him, and I said, "What do you do for a living?" And this woman told me, "I'm an influencer." And I almost said, "What the hell does that mean?" An influencer. That people pay them to promote certain dresses, certain brands, and they're on Instagram and TikTok and different things, promoting certain things, certain items. And a guy by the name of Keith Castillo, he's an influencer, and he's made a lot of money. And with some of the money, he bought 18-inch machetes to give to the homeless and alcohol. Now, I cannot think of a worse combination. Give somebody a machete and get them drunk. They're not going to be pleasant to deal with. And that he had some charges brought against him by some people.
Do you know what those charges were, or what could
charges were? Yes, charges were some homeless person had that machete and hit somebody, attack it. And they found out where he got the machete and the alcohol, and so they take and file complaints against them under those circumstances.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. Also, follow us on Instagram. You can find us at Best Storyteller Podcast. What else do you have, Chancellor?
This is not only stupid, but he's no good. The police and firemen were involved in fighting a fire and directing traffic and everything. And this thief got in the fire truck and went through the pockets of some of their stuff and got 3 keychains with the cars, and went back to the police station and hit the fob, until one of them honked. Then he got the pickup truck of one of the firemen and drove off. Now, how stupid and how sorry can you be? It was a red Jeep. He stole a red Jeep, caught him real fast. Another instant stupid criminal was that the stupid criminal asked a guy to look at his gun, and it didn't have a magazine in it. He said, how does that fit? And the guy gave him the magazine. He put the magazine in the gun, and he said, "It's my gun now." he borrowed the gun to rob him. And a stupid criminal. But the victim was even more stupid. That why would you give a guy a gun and magazine? A loaded gun. Said, "Gosh, I can't believe he did that." But I think the most stupid of the week on stupid criminals, the guy had a doormat. Doormats say welcome. 90-something% of them, have welcome on the doormat in front of the front door. And his doormat said, "Come back with a warrant." And police were out there, and they came back with a warrant. They figured he had something to hide. And it's like the story I told about my son-in-law when he was a judge, that there was a person that was charged with a crime, and his buddy was with him, and the buddy had on a T-shirt that said "wanted in all 50 states," insinuating that girls wanted him in all 50 states. But wanted in all 50 states meant to a judge that, well, maybe he is. And so he got the kid's driver's license and gave it to the court bailiff, and the court bailiff came back with good news and bad news. And the good news, he wasn't wanted in all 50 states. And the bad news, he is wanted in one, and it was Texas. So he placed him under arrest. And don't wear stupid shirts to court or to anywhere, and don't put up stupid doormats. That was not real bright.
It seems like some people are just inviting trouble.
Yeah,
they make bad decisions.
How can we mess this up? How can we make it worse? Mm-hmm. That's what they do.
Here we are, Chancellor, second week of December. It's hard to believe Christmas is going to be here before we know it.
December, big shopping month, and a lot of businesses, if they don't make it in December, they don't make it. That's the big month. But a big time for people that are shoppers is after Christmas, before New Year's. That 1 week, they're trying to unload. You take apparel, they're trying to get rid of their winter stuff, and they'll have some sales. The discouraging thing is if you go to an apparel shop to buy something after Christmas, you'll find things that you paid, $100 for now on sale for $49.99, mm-hmm. And so it can be a little difficult. But the apparel business and appliances, they really moved to get rid of their products that last week of December. And appliances, the reason they do is they're new models. Cars for the next year come out in the fall, and but appliances, it's January when they come out. So they move a lot of products, and so do electronics. Gift cards, I don't know, they usually don't have a sale on gift cards because they're going to keep their value no matter what. But one of the big problems in this day and time is the number of people stealing mm-hmm. gift cards and getting the information and then making sure that they cash in on it instead of someone else. We'll also be coming up on our New Year's Eve, New Year's Revelation. A guy told me one time, an assistant DA told me, he said, be careful on New Year's Eve. You can get run over. The amateur drunks are out. Mm. The ones that get drunk on a regular basis, they're going to stay home that night because it's dangerous, I guess. Churches have really adapted to artificial intelligence, and you can get sermons any place. A lot of people utilize artificial intelligence in preparing sermons, in preparing different services that they're going to be rendering. I get a lawyer letter or something from, I can tell if it's artificial intelligence or Chat GPT, and they're fine, but it's also pretty obvious what they are. One last thing, don't help wild animals. Because the guy saw a raccoon that had been hit, and so he picked it up and put it in the car to take it to a center that for wild animals that have been injured in some way. And it came to and got to clawing him and bit him and scratched him on the face. And they got it there, and it bit someone else, and they finally figured out that, it was rabbit. And so they had to take the shots for it and had to put the animal down. But stay away from wild animals. If you assist on a deal like that, you need to call the shop and ask them about the best way to approach wild animals. But every once in a while you read some story about that.
People messing with things they shouldn't be messing with.
Yeah, just leave them alone.
Chancellor, I can't let you go and wrap this podcast up without asking about your Texas Tech, Big 12 champion Texas Tech Red Raiders.
I went, I was there on Saturday. It was a great victory. We, we'd played Brigham Young once before and beat them 29-7, and this time we beat them 34-7, so we'd improved by 5 points during the layoff. But it was a lot of fun. And there were a lot of Red Raiders there. It was set a new record for the largest attendance at a Big 12 championship game. The prior record was held by University of Texas and Oklahoma State, but they sold over 94,000 tickets. But it was a good season. Saw a lot of people I hadn't seen sometime. Saw my friend Michael Crabtree, and he's going to be on. I'm going to have him on the podcast sometime.
Oh, nice.
And he had a great career with the 49ers and the Ravens, but he was there with his wife and 2 children that are 5 and 11, and Michael held on to his money and has done well. And but I'm telling you, all the old Red Raiders, they came out of the woodwork. they were everywhere, and I told them try to make sure I got a good seat. And I was seated. John Steinmetz, former board member, was seated right behind me, and we were between the 49 and the 50-yard line on the 10th row. So it was a welcome game for me, a welcome sight, and we had a good time. Ben Roberts, that was named most valuable player of the game, and he intercepted 2 passes and got 5 tackles. And then Jacob Rodriguez won on Friday the Dick Butkus Award, and for the best linebacker in the country. And he's had an exciting year.
They did a nice piece on him in the pregame.
Right.
And interviewed him. It was really good. He's a very likable young man.
He is, and his wife, flies a Black Hawk helicopter in the military, and so he says she faces a lot more danger than he does. And he's really a good person, good player, good person. That winds us up. Remember, you're not rich until your banker thinks you're rich. And they seldom think you're rich. They're always wanting to make sure they're going to get paid back.